The day my family chose my sister's lies over my truth started like any other Thursday. I stood in my childhood home's living room, surrounded by faces I'd known all my life, watching them transform from familiar to foreign in the span of minutes. $20,000, Lana. How could you? My mother's voice cracked as she clutched a stack of papers Sawyer had handed her moments before. Your own parents' retirement fund? I'm Lana. And until that moment, I thought I knew exactly who I was in my family. The responsible one, the daughter who'd never caused a moment's worry. Now I stood accused of theft, watching my carefully built world crumble. Mom, Dad, please. Those documents are fake. I would never... My voice caught as Sawyer stepped between us, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floors. I found the transfers myself, Sawyer interrupted, her voice dripping with rehearsed concern. All traced back to Lana's account. I didn't want to believe it either, but... She placed a manicured hand on Mom's shoulder, the perfect picture of a concerned daughter. Dad paced near the fireplace, his face red with anger. We trusted you with access to help manage our accounts when your mother got sick last year. Was that your plan all along? No! I stepped forward, reaching for the papers. Let me see those documents. Something's wrong here. Sawyer's lying. Sawyer pulled them away. I've already shown you the proof. Stop trying to deflect. Robert, Mom turned to Dad, tears streaming down her face. What do we do? I watched my father's expression harden, the same expression he'd worn when he caught neighborhood kids vandalizing his car years ago. But this time, it was directed at me. Pack your things, Lana. You're no longer welcome in this house. Dad, please. Don't. He held up his hand. The evidence is clear. You stole from us, betrayed our trust. I won't have a thief under my roof. I didn't do this. I spun toward my sister. Sawyer, tell them the truth. Whatever game you're playing, it's gone too far. Sawyer's eyes met mine, cold and triumphant. For a split second, her mask slipped, and I saw something I'd never noticed before, a calculated hatred that made my blood run cold. Security cameras, I blurted out. Check the bank's security footage. I haven't been to that branch in months. The transfers were done online, Sawyer countered smoothly. From your IP address. My mother sobbed harder. Just go, Lana, please, just go. Mom. I reached for her, but she turned away. You have 30 minutes to pack essentials, Dad said. We'll have the rest of your things sent to wherever you end up. I stood frozen, my world tilting on its axis. The family photos on the walls seemed to mock me. Smiling faces from happier times, Sawyer and me at her son Bailey's 16th birthday just last year, family vacations, Christmas mornings. This isn't over, I said quietly, my shock giving way to determination. The truth will come out. The truth already has, Sawyer replied, but I caught the slight tremor in her voice. Upstairs, I threw clothes into a suitcase with shaking hands. My phone buzzed. A text from Corey, my best friend since college. You okay? You're late for coffee. I typed back quickly. Everything's gone wrong. Need a place to stay. His response was immediate. My door's open. Always. Back downstairs, my parents wouldn't look at me. Sawyer stood by the door playing her part perfectly. The grieving sister, disappointed but righteous. When you realize what you've done, Dad said, his voice heavy. When you're ready to confess and make amends, maybe we can talk. Until then, I'll prove it wasn't me, I said, gripping my suitcase handle. And when I do, I hope you remember this moment. Remember how easily you believed the worst of me. I walked out of my childhood home, the door closing behind me with devastating finality. In my car, I allowed myself exactly 1 minute to break down, hands gripping the steering wheel as tears blurred my vision. Then I wiped my eyes, started the engine, and pulled out my phone to call Duncan, our family's longtime lawyer and friend. If Sawyer wanted to play this game, fine, but she'd forgotten something crucial about her little sister. I'd always been better at strategy than she was. Duncan, it's Lana. I need your help. I pulled onto the street, watching my parents' house disappear in the rearview mirror. Sawyer's set me up, and I'm going to need everything you can find on financial fraud and digital forensics. The line was quiet for a moment before Duncan spoke. Come to my office. We'll figure this out. I ended the call, my hands steady now. Sawyer might have won this battle, but she'd just started a war she wasn't prepared to fight. And I intended to win. Corey's apartment became my war room. 3 days after being kicked out, we sat surrounded by papers, laptops, and empty coffee cups, piecing together the puzzle of my sister's betrayal. Look at this, Corey said, turning his laptop screen toward me. The timestamps on these bank transfers don't match your work schedule. You were literally teaching a yoga class when this one happened. I leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Can we prove that? The gym's check-in system records instructor arrivals. I already called your manager. She's pulling the logs. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Corey checked his security camera feed and grinned. Duncan's here. Duncan entered carrying a thick manila envelope and his signature briefcase. His tie was loosened, a rare sight for the usually impeccable lawyer. You look like hell, he said, studying my face. Thanks. You should see the other guy. I attempted a smile. Please tell me you found something. He spread documents across Corey's coffee table. Your sister's been busy. These are records of multiple accounts opened in various names, all connected to her somehow. The money trail is complicated, but it's there if you know where to look. How did you get these? Corey asked. Let's just say I still have friends at the bank. Duncan pointed to a series of transactions. See this pattern? Money moves from your parents' account to a shell account, then gets redistributed to these other accounts. The transfer that supposedly proves your guilt? It's part of a larger scheme. My phone buzzed, a text from Bailey, Sawyer's son. Mum's acting weird. Grandma and Grandpa just gave her power of attorney over everything. Shit. I showed them the message. She's moving faster than we thought. Power of attorney? Duncan straightened his tie. That changes things. We need to move quickly before she can do real damage. Corey opened another browser tab. Wait, look at this. Sawyer's LinkedIn shows she worked for a tech security firm 3 years ago. Could explain how she managed to spoof your IP address. Can we prove that's what she did? I asked. With the right expert, maybe. Duncan pulled out his phone. I know someone who specializes in digital forensics. But Lana, this won't be cheap. I don't care about the cost. I care about... My voice caught as another text came through, this time from Mom. Please stop asking people to investigate us. You're only making things worse. Corey read over my shoulder and swore softly. Sawyer's got them completely convinced. She always was good at manipulation, I said, remembering childhood incidents I'd dismissed at the time. Remember when she convinced our parents I'd broken Dad's vintage record player? I was grounded for a month. This is a bit bigger than a record player, Duncan noted dryly. My phone rang. Bailey again. I put it on speaker. Aunt Lana, Mum's at the bank with Grandma and Grandpa right now. I heard her talking about moving their investments around. Bailey, can you get any details? Account numbers? Anything? I took pictures of some papers she left in her home office. Sending them now. Duncan leaned forward. Bailey, be careful. Don't let her catch you helping us. I know, but this isn't right. What she's doing to you. To them. Bailey's voice cracked. I have to go. She's coming back. The call ended as photos started coming through. Duncan examined them closely. This is good, he said. Really good. These documents show intent to defraud. See these signature dates? They don't match the notary stamps. Will it be enough? I asked. Not yet, but it's a start. Duncan gathered his papers. I'm meeting my digital forensics contact in an hour. Corey, keep digging into those bank records. Lana, you need to stay visible. Maintain your routine. Don't give Sawyer any ammunition to paint you as unstable or desperate. I nodded, standing to walk him out. At the door, he paused. One more thing. Your sister's going to realize soon that we're investigating. When she does, she'll probably try to contact you directly. Record everything. After he left, Corey brought me fresh coffee. You okay? No. I stared into the cup. My parents think I'm a thief. My sister's stealing their retirement, and my teenage nephew is playing spy. But I'm going to fix this. We're going to fix this, he corrected. Speaking of which, look what I just found. He showed me his screen, an old local news article about a fraud case at Sawyer's former workplace. She wasn't named, but the dates matched her employment there. Send that to Duncan, I said, feeling the first real spark of hope in days. And Corey, thank you for everything. He bumped my shoulder with his. That's what friends are for. Now let's go through these bank statements again. There's got to be something we missed. I settled back into research mode, my determination growing stronger. Sawyer might have won the first round, but the game was far from over. Duncan's office felt different at night. The usual bustle of legal assistants and ringing phones was replaced by the soft hum of the air conditioning and the glow of desk lamps. I sat across from Marcus, the digital forensics expert Duncan had brought in, watching him scroll through lines of code. Your sister's good, Marcus said, adjusting his glasses, but not as good as she thinks. See these access logs? She used a VPN to mask her location, but there's always a digital footprint. Duncan leaned over Marcus's shoulder. Can you prove it was her? Better. Marcus typed rapidly. I can prove it wasn't Lana. The IP spoofing software she used left traces. Amateur mistake, really. My phone lit up with a text from Bailey. Mum's freaking out. She just got a call from the bank about suspicious activity. Looks like someone's feeling the heat, Duncan said, reading the message. Marcus, how fast can you get us a preliminary report? Give me till morning. But you'll want to see this now. He pulled up a series of emails. These were recovered from a cloud backup, correspondence between your sister and someone at her old tech firm discussing how to redirect electronic transfers. The office door opened and Corey rushed in, waving a folder. You need to see this. Remember that fraud case we found? I dug deeper. Sawyer wasn't just working there, she was under investigation. Why wasn't she charged? I asked. Lack of evidence, but look at the investigating officer's notes. He spread papers across Duncan's desk. The method matches what she's doing now. My phone buzzed again. Mom's number. My hand shook as I answered. Lana? Her voice sounded uncertain, different from the anger of days ago. I got an alert from the bank, something about unauthorized access to our accounts. Mom, please listen to me. Sawyer says you're trying to hack our accounts now. Her voice hardened. Why can't you just leave us alone? Put her on speaker, Duncan whispered. I did. Mom, I'm with our lawyer right now. We have proof that Sawyer... Lawyer? You got a lawyer? She sounded hurt. Are you planning to sue us? Mrs. Taylor, Duncan cut in smoothly. I'm trying to protect your interests. There are serious irregularities with your accounts that have nothing to do with Lana. Silence on the line. Then, I need to go. Mom, wait. But she'd already hung up. That's actually good, Duncan said. She called you, not Sawyer. She's having doubts. Marcus whistled from his computer. Found something big. Money transfers to an offshore account started 3 months ago, small amounts at first, then larger, all traced back to Sawyer's home IP address. My phone lit up again. Bailey. Grandma just called Mom. Mum's locked herself in her office. I can hear her shredding papers. Time to move, Duncan said, grabbing his coat. Marcus, email me everything you have. Corey, get those bank records to my office. Lana, you're coming with me. Where? Your parents' house. Sawyer's panicking, which means she's likely to make mistakes. We need to be there when she does. The drive was tense. Duncan reviewed our evidence on his phone while I watched the familiar streets pass by. As we turned onto my parents' street, I saw multiple cars in the driveway. That's Sawyer's car, I said, and Bailey's. Duncan parked across the street. Remember, stay calm. Let me do the talking. We walked to the door, but before we could knock, it flew open. Bailey stood there, pale and shaking. You need to come quick, he said. Mum's trying to get Grandma and Grandpa to sign something. We followed him inside. In the living room, Sawyer stood over our parents with a document, her usual composure cracking. Just sign it, she was saying. It's to protect your assets from Lana's lawyers. Step away from them, Sawyer. Duncan's voice cut through the tension. Any documents signed under duress won't hold up in court. Sawyer spun around, her face twisting when she saw me. What are you doing here? Mom, Dad, I told you she'd try something like this. Actually, Duncan held up his phone. We're here about the offshore accounts you've been funneling money into. Want to explain those? The colour drained from Sawyer's face. Dad snatched the papers from her hand, reading them with growing horror. This isn't a protection document, he said slowly. This is a transfer of all our assets to you. Dad, I can explain. Save it for the forensic accountants, Duncan interrupted. They'll be very interested in your creative banking practices. Mum looked between us, tears in her eyes. Sawyer, what have you done? I stepped forward, placing the evidence folder on the coffee table. Everything you need to know is in here. Bank records, email trails, all of it. Sawyer's mask finally cracked completely. You don't understand. I had debts. Get out! Dad's voice was quiet but firm. Now. As Sawyer fled upstairs, Mum reached for my hand. Lana, I'm so... Not yet, I said gently. First, we need to protect what's left of your retirement. Then we can talk about everything else. The sound of Sawyer's footsteps on the stairs echoed through the house as the real work of rebuilding began. The next morning found us all gathered in Duncan's conference room. Mum and Dad sat close together, looking exhausted, while Bailey slumped in a chair near the window. Corey worked quietly on his laptop, organising the growing mountain of evidence against Sawyer. The good news, Duncan said, spreading documents across the table, is that we've frozen the accounts before more damage could be done. The bad news is the extent of what we've uncovered. How bad? Dad's voice was hoarse. Duncan pointed to a spreadsheet. Over the past year, Sawyer diverted approximately $200,000 to various accounts. We've traced most of it, but some funds are still unaccounted for. Mum's hand flew to her mouth. Our retirement. We'll recover what we can, Duncan assured her. The offshore accounts have been flagged and... The door burst open. Sawyer stormed in, her designer outfit wrinkled, her eyes wild. You had no right to freeze those accounts. Those weren't your accounts to empty, I shot back, standing. Security's on their way, Corey murmured, reaching for his phone. Bailey, Sawyer turned to her son. Let's go, now. Bailey didn't move. No, Mom. I'm staying. You ungrateful little... She stepped toward him, but Dad moved between them. That's enough, Sawyer. Sit down or leave. Those are your options. She laughed, a harsh sound. Options? Like the options you gave Lana when I convinced you she was stealing? You were so quick to believe the worst about her. Why not me? Because we have proof, Duncan said calmly, holding up a USB drive, including some interesting emails about your previous employer's fraud case, the one you were never charged for. Sawyer's face went pale. You can't prove anything. Actually, Corey turned his laptop around, we can. Your IP address, your email trails, your bank records. Want to see the transaction from last Tuesday? The one you made from your favorite coffee shop's Wi-Fi? I needed that money. Sawyer's composure cracked. Do you have any idea what it's like watching perfect little Lana get all the praise? The golden child who could do no wrong? I worked for everything I have, I said quietly. While you were busy resenting me, I was building a life. A life, she sneered. Teaching yoga and living in a tiny apartment. I have appearances to maintain. Appearances? Mum's voice shook. You stole our retirement for appearances? Security arrived at the door. Duncan nodded to them. Ms. Taylor needs to leave. This isn't over, Sawyer spat as the guards approached. Actually, it is. Duncan held up another document. The police have been notified. They'll want to speak with you about the fraud charges. As security escorted her out, Bailey broke down. I moved to sit beside him, putting an arm around his shoulders. I'm so sorry, he sobbed. I should have said something sooner. The shopping sprees, the new car, the cash withdrawals, I knew something was wrong. You did say something, I reminded him gently. When it mattered most. Corey cleared his throat. There's something else you should see. He pulled up a series of photos on his laptop. These were taken last month at various casinos. Sawyer's been gambling heavily. Mom started crying softly. Dad took her hand, his face ashen. How did we not see this? Because she didn't want you to, Duncan said. She crafted her deception carefully, played on your trust, and manipulated your emotions. And we fell for it completely. Dad turned to me. Lana, what we did to you. Later, I said firmly. Right now, we need to focus on damage control. Duncan nodded. I've contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Given the interstate nature of the fraud and the offshore accounts, they're taking over the investigation. What about Bailey's college fund? Mom asked suddenly. Bailey laughed bitterly. Gone. Mom emptied it last week. Said she was diversifying my investments. We'll figure something out, I promised him. First things first, Duncan interrupted, pulling out more papers. We need to file these reports, revoke all powers of attorney, and set up new accounts with proper security measures. As we worked through the paperwork, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. S. I showed it to Duncan, who immediately began typing on his phone, adding it to the evidence file. Keep any messages she sends. What happens now? Bailey asked, his voice small. Now, I said, we rebuild. Together. Dad looked up from the papers he was signing. As a family. The real one. Not the illusion your mother created. Outside Duncan's office windows, the city continued its normal rhythm, unaware of the drama unfolding inside. But in that conference room, surrounded by the wreckage of Sawyer's deception, we were taking the first steps toward healing. The truth had come out, as I'd promised it would. The cost was higher than any of us had imagined, but at least now we could face it honestly, together. 2 weeks after the confrontation in Duncan's office, I sat with Bailey in a small cafe, watching him push his untouched sandwich around his plate. The FBI investigation was in full swing, and Sawyer had disappeared after making bail. She called again last night, Bailey said, not looking up. Kept saying she could explain everything if I'd just meet her. You know you can't, I reminded him gently. The restraining order, I know. He finally met my eyes. But she's still my mum, even after everything. The bell above the cafe door chimed. Corey rushed in, laptop under his arm. Sorry I'm late, but you need to see this. He opened his computer, pulling up an email. Sawyer's been busy. Look at these ticket confirmations. She's trying to leave the country, I realized, scanning the documents. Brazil? No extradition treaty, Corey explained. Duncan's already forwarding this to the FBI. Bailey's phone buzzed. His face went pale as he read the message. She wants me to bring her passport, says it's in her bedroom safe. Let me see. I read the text. Baby, please help Mommy. Just this one thing. I'll make everything right. We should tell the FBI, Corey said. Wait. I looked at Bailey. This might be our chance to recover more of the stolen money. She must have documents in that safe. You want to use my son as bait? Mum's voice made us all jump. She stood by our table looking worried. I followed Bailey when I saw him leave the house. Not as bait, I assured her. But if we coordinate with the FBI... My phone rang. Duncan. I put it on speaker. Sawyer's passport has already been flagged, he said without preamble. But there might be something else in that safe worth retrieving. The FBI wants to set up a controlled meeting. Mum sat down heavily. It's not worth the risk to Bailey. I want to do it, Bailey said firmly. Maybe she'll surrender if she sees me. 2 hours later, we sat in an FBI surveillance van, watching Bailey approach his old house through multiple camera feeds. He wore a wire, and agents were positioned around the property. Remember, Agent Sarah warned through the radio, if she shows up, don't confront her. Just get the safe contents and get out. Bailey used his key to enter. The house was dark, exactly as Sawyer had left it 2 weeks ago. We watched him climb the stairs to the master bedroom. The safe's behind her favourite painting, his voice came through clearly. She always thought that was clever. He moved the artwork, revealing a wall safe, using my birthday as the code. Classic Mom. The safe clicked open. Inside, we could see stacks of papers, USB drives, and what looked like passports. Multiple passports, Agent Sarah muttered. This just got bigger. Suddenly, a car's headlights swept across the house's front windows. Bailey, get out now, I said into the radio. Someone's here. Wait, he whispered. There's something else. Bank statements from the Cayman Islands. The sound of a door opening downstairs made us all freeze. Bailey, Sawyer's voice called out. Baby, are you here? Move in, Agent Sarah ordered her team. Now! We watched as Bailey grabbed everything from the safe, shoving it into his backpack. Footsteps on the stairs. I'm in my old room, Mom, he called out, his voice steady despite his shaking hands. Just getting some clothes. He slipped out onto the bedroom balcony just as Sawyer reached the top of the stairs. FBI agents converged from all directions. FBI, don't move! Sawyer's scream of rage echoed through our headsets. Bailey, you helped them trap me? No, Mom. His voice was thick with tears as he climbed down to waiting agents. You trapped yourself. Back at the FBI office, Bailey sat with his head in his hands while agents went through the safe's contents. 6 fake passports, Agent Sarah reported. Offshore account details, evidence of at least 3 other fraud schemes. Your sister's been busy for years. Mom hugged Bailey close. You were so brave. But she'll go to prison now, he said quietly. Because of me. No, I corrected him. Because of her choices. You just helped expose the truth. Corey, who'd been examining the USB drives, called us over. Look at this. She kept records of everything. It's like she was proud of her schemes. Pride comes before the fall, Mom said softly. My phone buzzed with a text from Duncan. Sawyer's asking to make a deal. Says she'll return what's left of the money for a lighter sentence. Too late for deals, Agent Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. We've got her dead to rights on multiple federal charges. Bailey stood up suddenly. I need some air. I followed him outside. We stood in the cool night air, watching police cars come and go. You know what's weird? He said finally. I feel relieved, like I can finally stop pretending everything's okay. I put my arm around him. That's because the truth, even when it hurts, is better than living a lie. He nodded, leaning into me. What happens now? Now, I said. We heal, and we do it together. Bailey's graduation was 3 days away, and the tension in our family was reaching a breaking point. We sat in the living room of my parents' house, surrounded by college acceptance letters and legal documents. She's requesting to attend the graduation, Dad said, holding up a letter from Sawyer's lawyer. Says it's her right as a mother. Absolutely not, Mom snapped. The restraining order can be temporarily lifted for special events, Duncan interjected, adjusting his reading glasses. It's up to Bailey. All eyes turned to Bailey, who sat cross-legged on the floor, fiddling with his graduation cap tassel. I want her there. Honey, after everything she's done, Mom started. She's still my mum, Bailey interrupted, and I want to show her exactly what she's losing. The doorbell rang. Corey entered with his laptop, looking excited. The forensic accountants found something, more accounts hidden deeper than the others. Duncan leaned forward. How much? Another 150,000. They're working on recovery now. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tell Bailey I'm coming to his graduation. Nothing can stop me from seeing my son. I showed it to Duncan, who immediately started typing on his phone. Forwarding to the FBI. They'll want to monitor the ceremony. We can't let her ruin this, I said, watching Bailey's face fall. This is his day. She won't, Dad said firmly. We'll have security, the FBI, everything we need. Actually, Bailey stood up, his voice stronger than I'd heard in weeks. I have an idea. Let her come. Bailey, Mum protested. No, listen, she wants to see me graduate, fine. But I'm giving the student's speech, remember, and I know exactly what I want to say. The room fell silent. Bailey had been chosen as class speaker months ago before everything fell apart. Are you sure? I asked quietly. He nodded. I'm done hiding her secrets, done pretending everything's okay. It could get messy, Duncan warned. My whole life has been messy, Bailey replied. At least this time it's on my terms. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Security plans were made, the FBI coordinated with local police, and Bailey spent hours in his room working on his speech. The morning of graduation, we gathered at the high school auditorium. I helped Bailey straighten his honor cords while scanning the growing crowd. "She's here," Corey murmured, nodding toward the back. "Third row from the right." Sawyer sat alone, wearing oversized sunglasses and a designer dress that couldn't hide how thin she'd become. FBI agents positioned themselves strategically around her. "You ready?" I asked Bailey. He squared his shoulders. "More than ready." The ceremony began. We watched as Bailey's classmates received their diplomas, the normal excitement of graduation tempered by the underlying tension. Then it was time for Bailey's speech. He approached the podium, adjusting the microphone. The audience fell silent. "Today marks not just our graduation," he began, "but our first step into truth. For years, I watched my family live a lie. I watched my mother steal from her own parents, frame her sister, and destroy the trust that families are built on." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sawyer half rose from her seat, but an FBI agent's hand on her shoulder kept her down. "But here's what I learned," Bailey continued, his voice growing stronger. "The truth always comes out, and when it does, you have a choice. You can hide from it, like my mother did, or you can face it, learn from it, and grow stronger." I saw tears streaming down Mom's face. Dad held her hand tightly. "To my classmates, I say this: your integrity is everything. Once lost, it's almost impossible to regain. To my family, the ones who stood by me, who fought for truth, thank you for showing me what real strength looks like." Sawyer stood up fully now, her sunglasses off, mascara running down her face. "Bailey, please." "And to my mother," he said, looking directly at her, "I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine, because holding on to anger only hurts ourselves." The auditorium erupted in applause. Sawyer fled down the aisle, FBI agents following discreetly. Bailey returned to his seat, shoulders straight, head high. After the ceremony, we gathered in the parking lot. Bailey clutched his diploma, surrounded by family and friends. "That was incredibly brave," I told him. "It felt right," he said. "Like I could finally breathe." Duncan approached, phone in hand. "Sawyer's been taken into custody. She violated the restraining order by approaching the stage." "Good," Dad said firmly. "Maybe now we can all move forward." Bailey looked at his diploma, then at all of us. "You know what? For the first time, I actually believe we can." We headed to our cars, ready to celebrate properly. The truth had been spoken, not in whispers or legal documents, but out loud, in front of everyone. And somehow, that made all the difference. The courthouse hallway felt impossibly long as we waited for Sawyer's sentencing hearing to begin. 3 months had passed since Bailey's graduation, and the full scope of her crimes had finally come to light. "You don't have to do this," I told Bailey, watching him adjust his tie for the 10th time. "No one would blame you for staying home." "I need to see it through," he replied, his voice steady. "Besides, I'm not the only one making a victim impact statement." Mum and Dad sat nearby, reviewing their prepared statements. Corey worked on his laptop, organizing the final financial records that had sealed Sawyer's fate. The courtroom doors opened. Duncan emerged, his expression grim. "They're ready for us." Inside, Sawyer sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, a far cry from her designer outfits. She turned as we entered, her eyes locking onto Bailey. "Baby, please," she started. "No contact with the victims," the bailiff warned. We took our seats. The judge entered and the proceedings began. The prosecutor laid out the final tally. Over $500,000 stolen, multiple instances of fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. "The defendant has agreed to plead guilty to all charges," the prosecutor announced. "Before sentencing, we'll hear victim impact statements." Dad went first, his voice shaking with emotion. "You didn't just steal our money, Sawyer. You stole our trust, our family's peace. You tried to destroy your sister's reputation for your own gain." Mom could barely get through her statement. I keep asking myself what I did wrong as a mother. How did I raise someone capable of such calculated cruelty? Then it was my turn. I stood, facing my sister directly. I spent weeks trying to write this statement, I began, trying to find the right words to describe what you did to us. But there aren't any. You didn't just commit fraud, Sawyer. You weaponized love. You turned our parents against me because you were jealous. You used your own son as a pawn in your schemes. Sawyer's face crumpled, but I continued. The worst part isn't the money. It's knowing that every childhood memory, every family moment is now tainted by the question, were you planning this even then? Finally, Bailey approached the podium. The room fell silent. Mom, he said simply, and Sawyer's head snapped up. I used to think you were the strongest person I knew. Now I realize that real strength isn't about maintaining appearances or manipulating others. It's about facing consequences, something you never taught me. But thankfully, Aunt Lana did. Sawyer tried to stand, but her lawyer pulled her back down. I'm going to college in the fall, Bailey continued. The money you stole from my college fund? Aunt Lana and my grandparents are helping me replace it. Because that's what real family does. They build each other up instead of tearing each other down. The judge cleared his throat. Would the defendant like to make a statement before sentencing? Sawyer stood shakily. I never meant for it to go this far. The gambling debts just kept growing, and I couldn't stop. Lana always had everything so together, and I wanted that. I wanted to be the successful one for once. By destroying her? Dad interrupted. Order, the judge warned. I'm sorry, Sawyer whispered. Bailey, baby, I'm so sorry. The judge adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Taylor, you've pled guilty to multiple federal charges. You systematically defrauded your own parents, attempted to frame your sister, and involved your minor son in your criminal activities. The court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole after 5 years. You will also be required to make full restitution to your victims. The gavel struck. Sawyer collapsed into her chair as bailiffs approached to lead her away. Wait, she called out desperately. Bailey, please, will you visit me? Bailey stood, shoulders straight like at graduation. Maybe someday, Mom, when you're ready to tell the whole truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras. Duncan helped us navigate through them to our cars. It's really over, Mum said, sounding dazed. The criminal part is, Duncan corrected. We still have work to do recovering the remaining funds. Bailey checked his phone. My dorm assignment came through. I start moving in next week. We'll help you, I promised. All of us. Dad put his arm around Bailey's shoulders. Your mom made her choices. Now you get to make yours. Speaking of choices, Corey called from his car, who's up for lunch? I think we all need something normal right now. As we headed to our favourite restaurant, I watched Bailey in the rearview mirror. He was smiling, really smiling for the first time in months. The truth had finally been spoken, justice had been served, and while our family would never be the same, maybe that wasn't entirely a bad thing. Sometimes it takes breaking apart to rebuild something stronger. The autumn wind scattered leaves across Bailey's dorm parking lot as we unloaded the last of his belongings. Mum fussed with his bedding while Dad arranged his desk, trying to keep busy rather than face the moment we'd have to leave. Got the final restitution report from Duncan, Corey said, showing me his phone as we carried in boxes. They recovered almost everything. Your parents' retirement is secure. Good timing, I replied. One less worry for today. Bailey emerged from his dorm room looking both excited and terrified. I think that's everything. Almost everything, Dad said, pulling out an envelope. This came for you this morning, from the prison. The room went quiet. Bailey took the letter, his hands steady. She's been writing every week. I haven't opened any of them. You don't have to open this one either, Mum said softly. No, I think it's time. He broke the seal and unfolded the paper. As he read, his expression shifted from guarded to surprised. She's signed up for therapy, he said, and gambling addiction counselling. Says she's finally ready to tell the whole truth, not just about the money, but about everything. Do you believe her? I asked. I don't know, but… He handed me the letter. She included this for you, Aunt Lana. I opened the folded note. Lana, I've spent every day here thinking about what I did to you. The truth is, I was never jealous of your money or success. I was jealous of your integrity, your strength, the way our parents looked at you with pride instead of worry. I know sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have right now. Sawyer. Well, Bailey watched my face. It's a start, I said, folding the note. A small one. Dad cleared his throat. Speaking of starts, we should probably… Yeah, Mum's voice cracked. We should go. Bailey hugged them both, then turned to me. Thank you. For everything. For fighting for the truth when everyone else believed the lies. That's what family does, I said, pulling him close. The real kind, anyway. Oh, Corey called from the doorway. Almost forgot. Housewarming gift? He handed Bailey a small package. Inside was a framed photo from his graduation day, not the ceremony, but after. Bailey stood surrounded by all of us laughing at something off camera. His first moment of real freedom from Sawyer's web of lies. Put it somewhere you can see it, Corey said. Remember, you've got people in your corner. As we walked back to our cars, Bailey's roommate arrived with his family. The two boys immediately started talking about video games and class schedules, the normal excitement of college life taking over. He's going to be okay, Mom said, watching them. Better than okay. Because he chose to be, I replied. Just like we all did. Dad pulled out his phone. Duncan says the last offshore account has been frozen. Everything's accounted for now. Not everything, Mom said quietly. We can never get back the time we lost, the trust we broke when we believed Sawyer over you, Lana. No, I agreed, but we can build something new, something stronger. Speaking of building, Corey interrupted, we're going to be late for the house inspection. House inspection? Dad asked. I'm buying a place, I explained. Just a small house, but it has a guest room. For when Bailey needs a break from dorm life. Mom smiled, really smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. You're still taking care of everyone, aren't you? I learned from the best, I said, hugging her, even if we forgot it for a while. We said our final goodbyes to Bailey, watching him walk back toward his dorm with his new roommate. He turned once, waving, then disappeared inside to start his new chapter. In the parking lot, Dad pulled me aside. I know we've said it before, but I'm sorry for doubting you, for letting Sawyer manipulate us. I know, Dad. But look what came from it. I gestured around us. Bailey's stronger, Mom's stronger, we all are. Sometimes the truth has to break things apart before they can be rebuilt right. My phone buzzed, a text from Duncan. Final paperwork ready. Your parents' accounts are secure, new protections in place, ready to close this chapter. I looked at my family, Mom and Dad holding hands, Corey waiting by his car, Bailey's dorm rising behind us, and even thought about Sawyer, working on her own redemption in prison. The truth had cost us all something, but it had given us back ourselves. Yeah, I texted back. We're ready. Because sometimes endings aren't really endings at all. They're just the truth making space for new beginnings.
Manhattan mornings always begin with a quiet light. Through the windows of our luxury condominium along Park Avenue, the sunlight shimmers golden, like a Turner painting. In the corner of my studio, where my art supplies are arranged, my son Oliver is painting again this morning. Mom, look. I painted a blue elephant today. Oliver holds up his painting with a beaming smile. The bold blue that dominates the canvas seems almost too daring to be an elephant, yet it shows remarkable expressiveness for a 6-year-old. I gently stroke his soft black hair and smile, saying, "What lovely use of color." I'm Melissa Brown, a 32-year-old illustrator from Austin, Texas. Raised in a middle-class family, I excelled at art school and have held several solo exhibitions. While others describe me as having a gentle personality, when it comes to my son's talent, I possess an unwavering determination that I won't compromise for anyone. Good morning, Melissa. James appears, dressed in his usual Brooks Brothers suit. As a director at a real estate development company, he's busy constructing one high-rise after another in prime Manhattan locations. He's completely devoted to his work, leaving household matters entirely to his mother, Patricia. You'll be stopping by Mother's Gallery today, won't you? At James's words, I let out a small sigh. Patricia Brown is one of New York's most influential museum owners. My history with her goes back 4 years. Back then, I was participating in a young artist support exhibition at Patricia's museum. That's where I met her only son, James. At first, I felt uncertain about him as he stood intently studying my paintings at the exhibition. However, I gradually found myself drawn to his genuine admiration for art. Initially, Patricia highly valued my artistic talent and supported our marriage. I still remember her saying with an elegant smile, "Melissa will understand the Brown family's artistic tradition." 6 months later, we were married. Thanks to Patricia's arrangements, the ceremony was held at a historic church near the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Wearing a Chanel wedding dress, I seemed to be warmly welcomed into New York's high society. However, after Oliver was born and his remarkable talent became apparent, Patricia's attitude gradually began to change. While maintaining the image of a refined lady devoted to charitable activities in public, her perfectionism and desire for control became increasingly evident, especially regarding her grandson's education. He should be learning classical techniques properly. This free expression for children is nothing but negligence. Every weekend, we invariably spend time at Patricia's museum. Each time, she lectures me, indirectly but persistently, about the right way to guide Oliver's talent. James believes everything his mother says is absolute. Though he acknowledges my talent, he always shows indecision when caught between his mother and me. He keeps saying, "Mother only wants what's best for you," but each time I hear those words repeated, the anxiety in my heart grows larger. On the surface, we appear to be a wealthy, harmonious family. From our luxury apartment along Park Avenue, I work from home as an illustrator while dedicating myself to nurturing Oliver's talent. On holidays, we enjoy picnics in Central Park, shop at Whole Foods, and sometimes treat ourselves to family dinners at Le Bernardin. But beneath this seemingly perfect life, I could sense something slowly becoming distorted. Lately, in particular, Patricia's reactions to Oliver's paintings have become even more severe than before. Something cold has taken residence in her eyes. Still, I want to let Oliver's talent develop freely. I believe true art resides in pure expression unfettered by conventional concepts, just like his blue elephant. The Manhattan morning sun continues to gently illuminate Oliver's painting on the easel. Around the time Oliver turned 5, our lives began to change gradually. It started with a single painting he created. Using a new set of paints he received for his birthday, Oliver painted a scene of Central Park. The trees bathed in spring sunlight, people resting on benches, doves soaring through the sky. It captured a moment of light and shadow that even adults would find challenging to express. Oh, how wonderful! Upon seeing the painting, Patricia's eyes lit up, momentarily forgetting her usually cold demeanor. However, from that moment on, her interference gradually intensified. Oliver, try copying this painting now. One day, Patricia brought a print of a classical landscape. Oliver, though hesitant, tried to paint as his grandmother instructed. But his free expression gradually diminished, replaced only by formal techniques. Free expression is important, but fundamentals come first. Melissa, your teaching methods will ruin Oliver's talent. Patricia's words always began with criticism. My educational approach was negligent and irresponsible, she'd say. But Oliver was different. He showed his most vibrant expressions when painting according to his own sensibilities. During this time, Oliver's work won the grand prize at a local art exhibition, making him the youngest recipient ever. The New York Times featured him as a young prodigy, praising his talent. The reporter who came to interview us was captivated by Oliver's creative process. What free expression! It's like a dreamlike world, reminiscent of Chagall. The day after the article was published, we received an unexpected phone call. It was from MoMA's Children's Art Division. They wanted to hold a solo exhibition for Oliver. But it's too soon. He should exhibit at our museum. Patricia strongly opposed it. But I had made up my mind. I wanted to show Oliver's talent to a broader world. I'm sorry, but I want to respect Oliver's wishes. From the day I decided to accept the MoMA exhibition, Patricia's attitude changed completely. She began visiting our home almost daily to monitor Oliver's work. Her eyes, peering from beneath her Hermes scarf, were as sharp as a hawk's. Failing to study the classics makes you unworthy as a Brown family heir. You're the one destroying this child's talent. James would only nod silently at his mother's words. Mother is thinking of what's best for you. It's for Oliver's future. My husband's words were always the same. But my heart ached every time I saw Oliver nearly crushed under the pressure. I felt the colors slowly fading from his paintings. Mom, I'm starting to feel scared of painting. One night, Oliver confided this to me softly. At that moment, something changed decisively within me. I couldn't compromise with anyone when it came to protecting my son's talent, even if it meant confronting my husband. It's okay, Oliver. Mom will definitely protect you. The setting sun streaming through the studio window tinted Oliver's tears golden. In that light, he gave a small nod. At that moment, I didn't know that this resolution would lead our family toward an unimaginable fate. The following weekend, Patricia suddenly convened a museum board meeting. Under the magnificent chandelier, as New York's high society elite gathered, she stood up gracefully. I am planning a special exhibition for my grandson, Oliver Brown. Dressed in a Chanel tweed suit, she smiled as if assured of victory. Melissa, don't you agree? This museum is the best place to nurture Oliver's talent. The board members' gazes turned to me all at once. I could feel clear pressure in their looks. Patricia continued without waiting for my response. Everything is already arranged. Starting next month, we'll hold master classes every Saturday, and we've invited specialists from Italy to teach classical techniques. I decline. Silence dominated the room. Patricia's expression seemed to freeze for a moment. I want to nurture Oliver's talent in a freer environment. Through his solo exhibition at MoMA, his own expression. Melissa. My husband's voice echoed through the venue. James stood beside his mother, looking at me accusingly. You don't understand Mother's kindness or the Brown family tradition. From that day on, the atmosphere at home changed completely. Patricia's visits became even more frequent, sometimes staying from early morning until late at night. And she always forced Oliver to practice classical techniques. You know, Da Vinci had already started anatomical sketches by age 6. Surely you can put in that much effort. Her hand on Oliver's shoulder appeared gentle but somehow intimidating. I noticed my son's expression growing darker day by day. The once vibrant colors in his paintings gradually became dull. Free lines became rigid, and original compositions turned formulaic. It was as if Oliver's heart was slowly turning gray. At night, I began secretly visiting my son's room to paint freely together. It was our small act of rebellion. Mom, I really want to paint different kinds of pictures. I want to paint a world where animals fly in the sky, trees are rainbow-colored, and the sun is smiling. Oliver's whispers strengthened my resolve even further. I won't let anyone restrict this child's talent, even if it means damaging family relationships. Let's take a family trip to Hawaii. Patricia's suggestion came suddenly. During a family dinner at Le Bernardin, an upscale French restaurant in Manhattan, she elegantly tilted her wine glass as she brought it up. Actually, I'm planning a special exhibition at my museum's Hawaii branch. Wouldn't it be wonderful to showcase Oliver's talent in this Pacific paradise? Her Hermes scarf fluttered at the collar of her Chanel tweed jacket. The eyes beneath seemed somehow different from usual. I've already arranged everything, the airline tickets and hotel. First-class travel, so Oliver will be comfortable. I instinctively felt something was off. For the past few weeks, Patricia had strongly opposed Oliver's MoMA exhibition, visiting our home almost daily to force classical technique training. For her to suddenly suggest a Hawaii trip. But I couldn't find a reason to refuse. James said he had already taken time off work, and Oliver's eyes sparkled as he said, I want to paint the Hawaiian Ocean. Yes, let's go since you've arranged it. When I spoke those words, a small warning bell rang in the depths of my heart. On our third day in Hawaii, we visited Kilauea volcano. A rumbling like Earth's heartbeat echoed from the Halemaumeu crater. Tourists gathered at the viewing deck, taking photos and videos of the magnificent natural spectacle with their smartphones and cameras. Oliver had opened his small sketchbook and was intently sketching the smoke rising from the crater. His profile looked so alive, as if freed from the pressure he'd felt in Manhattan. Oliver, come here. The view from that observation point is even more spectacular. Patricia suddenly called out. Her voice was higher than usual, and there was something desperate about her manner. I instinctively tensed. As we approached the edge of the viewing deck, Patricia's behavior became increasingly agitated. Her Hermes shawl fluttered in the wind, and her usually perfectly styled hair began to dishevel. This child keeps betraying our expectations. At the sudden shout, surrounding tourists turned to look. In Patricia's eyes dwelt a madness I had never seen before. Not studying classics, ignoring family traditions, and painting such childish pictures. You're a disgrace to the Brown family. It happened in an instant. Patricia grabbed Oliver's arm and tried to push him toward where the lava was visible. I reflexively jumped in and embraced my son. What are you doing? Be quiet. You're the one ruining this child's talent. Patricia's expensive shawl caught on Oliver's paint set. She lost her balance and stumbled backward. Mother is right. Oliver's talent needs to be guided in the proper direction. My husband's words echoed on the cold wind. I held my son tightly, my eyes wide. Then, an unexpected turn of events occurred. With the momentum from trying to push Oliver, Patricia's body tilted sharply. Her Hermes shawl billowed in the wind, and her body floated over the viewing deck's railing. Screams rang out. Patricia's body hung suspended, caught on a railing protrusion. Below her feet, a hellish deep valley gaped open. Tourists pointed their phones, screamed, and some ran to call for help. James suddenly came to his senses and ran toward his mother, calling her name. I stood frozen, holding Oliver tightly, watching the scene unfold. The warm Hawaiian wind slowly circled around us, as if time had stopped. Patricia hung suspended, staring at us with a terror-twisted expression. In her eyes floated an emotion I had never seen before. Was it hatred, regret, or something else? At that moment, I realized. Before coming to the viewing deck, Patricia's behavior had already been different from usual. At the breakfast table, she hadn't eaten a bite, just clutching her coffee cup. And when leaving the hotel, she had taken an old album she never usually brings out. Let's take a photo, she had said, asking the room maid. Now I understood her expression then. She had been trying to leave one last family photo. The metal of the viewing deck was hot from Hawaii's strong sunlight. The red glow of lava cast our shadows in an eerie dance. Hot wind from the crater violently shook Patricia's shawl. Help me. Melissa. Suddenly, her voice rang out. It was weak, unlike anything I'd heard from her before. The edges of her Hermes shawl had already started to singe. James tried to lean over the railing but was stopped by security guards. Oliver trembled in my arms, watching his grandmother. My paintings. I should have painted the way Grandma wanted. At those words, I held my son's shoulders tightly. No, Oliver. Your paintings are your heart itself. Don't let anyone deny that. The sound of sirens could be heard in the distance. The volcano's rumbling grew louder, and black smoke began to cover the sky. Tourists had already started evacuating. Patricia's fingers began slipping from the railing, one by one. Her perfectly manicured nails lost their shine as they slid. Patricia trembled slightly as she hung there. Her Hermes shawl was already in tatters, and her expensive Chanel suit had turned gray from the volcanic smoke. Around us, dozens of smartphones recorded this shocking scene. Tourists rushing to post on social media, people calling 911, and others standing dumbfounded. All would remember this moment forever. Mom, is Grandma? At Oliver's small voice, I hugged him tightly. He still clutched his sketchbook, where half a volcano landscape remained drawn. The rescue team arrived 10 minutes later. They immediately began preparing rescue harnesses. Black smoke had already started swirling around Patricia. Ma'am, just a little longer. Please hold on. As the rescuer's voice rang out, Patricia looked at us. In her eyes floated an emotion I had never seen before. It wasn't fear or hatred, but the color of deep regret. Melissa. Oliver. I. The rest of her words were swallowed by the volcano's roar. The rescue operation took nearly 30 minutes. During that time, we told everything to the police. The moment she tried to push Oliver, my husband's words of agreement, and the unexpected turn of events. That night, the news spread worldwide. Prominent museum owner left hanging after attempting to push grandson. New York Society queen's shocking behavior in Hawaii. Family conflict over artistic talent leads to tragedy. Countless videos were posted on social media and spread instantly. The museum board members held an emergency meeting and issued a statement calling for her resignation. Her influence in high society crumbled overnight. A heavy silence awaited us when we returned to the hotel. James stood by the window, gazing at the nighttime Honolulu streets. "You were right," he suddenly turned and said. Tears glistened in his eyes. Trying to mold Oliver's talent according to mother's wishes. I've been a terrible father. At those words, I felt years of pressure suddenly release. Oliver silently ran to his father and jumped into his arms. "Dad, can I paint freely?" James nodded firmly. His profile showed a gentleness I had never seen before. A month later, we moved to a new apartment in Manhattan. We completely cut ties with Patricia, who began receiving counseling from a psychiatrist. Oliver's solo exhibition at MoMA was a great success. His blue elephants, rainbow-colored trees, and smiling suns healed many people's hearts. The exhibition hall displayed an article headlined, "The Free Spirit of a Young Artist." A new family form gradually came into view. We enjoy sketching in the park on weekends and sometimes go gallery hopping together. James now accompanies Oliver to his art classes between work commitments. A year has passed since then. Morning sunlight streams into our studio facing Central Park. Oliver is now 7 and enjoys even freer expression. "Mom, look. Today I painted a world where purple rain falls." When I turned around at my son's voice, there was an imaginative landscape spread before me. Purple raindrops were falling on a rainbow-colored city, with a red moon floating in the sky. Next to him, James smiled gently. Patricia's letter arrived that morning. "I've seen Oliver's paintings. I was wrong. Art isn't something to be confined to a mold, but something to be set free." I held the letter to my chest while gazing out the window. The Manhattan skyline was wrapped in morning mist. Somewhere, bells were ringing, announcing the start of a new day. "Well then, let's paint some wonderful pictures today." At my words, Oliver nodded with a beaming smile. At that moment, the light streaming into the studio seemed to gently embrace our family, as if bestowing a blessing. The MoMA curator's eyes sparkled when he saw Oliver's new work. "This is remarkable progress. I can see genuine technical advancement within the free expression." The exhibition room walls displayed Oliver's works chronologically. The change was clear to everyone's eyes, from the rigid paintings before the Hawaii incident to the current free expression. Talent can't be nurtured through force, can it? I quietly nodded at the curator's words. When I turned around, Oliver was running his brush across a new canvas. His expression was bright, without a trace of the anxiety that once shadowed it. James had changed too. He revised his work style and now works from his home office 3 days a week. Oliver's latest works are always displayed on his desk. Family time really is the most precious thing. He often says this while looking at Oliver's sketches. There was now a father with his own will, no longer showing his mother's influence. Patricia continues treatment with her psychiatrist. Her letters arrive once a month. Initially filled with apologies and regret, they gradually took on a more peaceful tone. Art truly has the power to free people's hearts. That's what was written in her recent letter. Those words carried the resonance of a soul released from years of obsession. We're now building our own life in our new Upper West Side environment. We buy fresh bagels from the bakery in the morning and enjoy picnics in Central Park on weekends. Oliver's new art class friends genuinely enjoy his creative expression. There's always something new to discover when painting with Oliver, his female classmate says with sparkling eyes. We've also started workshops at the museum. Teaching children the joy of free expression has become a new source of happiness for us. Melissa, let's record this exhibition on video. James raises his smartphone. Unlike when that video from the volcano went viral around the world, now it's to record moments of happiness. Spring sunlight fills the exhibition room, gently illuminating Oliver's paintings. The works hanging on the walls depicted the dreams of a boy who had gained the wings of imagination. Red moon, purple rain, blue elephant. They were all testament to a liberated soul. Hey, Mom. Oliver calls to me. Next, I want to paint a family portrait. With Dad, and Mom, and me, everyone smiling. At those words, tears welled up in my eyes. Yes, this was the form we had been seeking. A new family shape, bound by genuine affection without being confined to any mold. Outside the window, Manhattan streets are filled with their usual vitality. But in our hearts, the world had definitely changed. Toward a freer, warmer, more beautiful world. A white-walled house bathed in morning sunlight stands in Greenwich's upscale residential area. On the well-maintained front lawn, the grass that Paul had meticulously trimmed yesterday sparkles with morning dew. Amy, did you pack all your homework? I called out while doing a final check of my daughter's school bag at the entrance. From the kitchen wafts the aromatic smell of bagels that just popped out of the toaster. Yes. And my ballet leotard too. Amy responds energetically, her braids swaying. Her voice is filled with the usual morning vigor. My 8-year-old daughter is a 3rd grader at Greenwich Private School. She's grown into a trustworthy child who excels academically and takes her ballet and piano lessons seriously, earning her teacher's confidence. I'll be home late today, Paul emerges from the garage. As a project manager at Microsoft, he's been busy lately launching new projects. With his black hair, brown eyes, and gentle smile, he's quite distinctive. He maintains his well-proportioned 5 feet 11 inches frame with weekend tennis matches. I understand. I'll keep dinner warm for you. Our family splits up, heading out in our respective BMW and Volvo SUV. This is the Wilson family's weekday routine. I'm Melissa Wilson, 34. As a real estate agent at Coldwell Banker, I earn $120,000 annually. I take secret pride in my slim figure, maintained by Pilates 3 times a week, complementing my brown wavy hair and green eyes. Though each day is a struggle balancing work and parenting, I find fulfillment in this lifestyle. Our house is a 10-year-old New England-style home. It's a 4-bedroom with 3,000 square feet of living space and a 2-car garage. I particularly love our spacious kitchen with its island and the living room with its fireplace. In the backyard, we've installed a deck and barbecue set for family enjoyment on holidays. For security, we have a digital lock at the entrance with a Ring doorbell camera, fingerprint recognition for the garage, and security glass on all first-floor windows. Even though this is a safe neighborhood, family safety comes first. On weekdays, we follow a set rhythm. Paul gets up at 6 a.m. for jogging, I wake at 6:30 for stretching. We wake Amy at 7, have family breakfast at 7:30. Paul leaves for work at 8, I drop Amy off at school at 8:15, and arrive at my office by 9. Amy finishes school at 3:30 p.m. and has after-school activities at 4. Paul returns home at 7, and we have family dinner at 7:30. We put Amy to bed at 9, and us adults turn in at 11. This structured routine is our daily life. When it comes to housework, Martha Johnson is indispensable. She's our British housekeeper who immigrated 20 years ago. She works at our house 3 times a week. Though her $30 hourly rate isn't cheap, her meticulous nature and the trust we've built over 2 years are worth more than the money. We cherish family time on weekends. Saturday mornings are for family shopping, afternoons for Amy's ballet lessons, and evenings for watching home movies together. Sundays begin with church in the morning, and if weather permits, we have picnics in the nearby park in the afternoon. These peaceful weekend routines shape our happy daily life. We maintain close ties with our parents. My parents live in Boston, and we visit them monthly while calling twice a week to share updates. Paul's parents reside in Florida, and we never miss our biannual visits and weekly online calls. Then there's my sister Caroline. Working at a local accounting firm, she looks quite similar to me. Though her annual income of $40,000 isn't much, she seems to enjoy her apartment life. She frequently posts family photos on social media and often visits us on weekends. We're close sisters who enjoy shopping and having lunch together. This morning too, the same morning light enveloped our house. None of us had any way of knowing that our peaceful daily life was about to be greatly disturbed. One Monday night, during our regular routine, it was time to put Amy to bed. Just as I was about to tuck her in under her pink unicorn pattern comforter and give her a goodnight kiss, it happened. "Mom, I hear strange noises." Amy's voice carried an unusual anxiety, different from her usual sweet tone. I placed my hand on her forehead to check her temperature. "No fever." "What kind of noise?" "Like clicking, and then it sounds like someone whispering." At my daughter's words, I froze for a moment. However, I quickly maintained my composure and surveyed the room. I approached the air conditioning vent and checked it thoroughly. "Is it coming from here?" "No, more from the wall." Amy curled up on her bed, pointing toward the wall. I felt my heart rate increase slightly but tried not to show it in my expression. "You must be tired. Let's get to sleep now, you have an early start tomorrow." "But..." I smiled gently at Amy's worried face. "It's okay. Mom's here with you. That night, even after Amy fell asleep, I couldn't shake off her words. But it must be just imagination, I told myself as I went to bed. However, that sense of unease gradually grew stronger. The first thing I noticed was the orientation of our family photo in the living room. The Christmas picture from last year that sits above the fireplace, it usually faces slightly to the left, but now it was facing straight ahead. Maybe I'm imagining things. But surely. That week, small oddities kept catching my attention. The TV remote was slightly off from its usual spot. Paul's study drawer appeared to have been opened slightly. The air conditioning temperature settings had been changed from our usual preferences. Each incident was minor on its own. But happening in such quick succession, it seemed beyond coincidence. The following week brought even stranger occurrences. Paul's favorite mug disappeared. We couldn't find it anywhere. The welcome mat was at an unusual angle. The mail in the mailbox, which should have been neatly stacked, was scattered. Even the bathroom towels, which Martha always folds meticulously, were folded differently. During a weekend visit from my sister Caroline in the living room. Is Paul busy with work lately? Though it seemed like a casual question, there was something different about Caroline's tone. Yes, he started a new project. I see, that must be tough. Caroline took out her smartphone and started taking multiple photos. While taking family photos was her habit, something felt off about her behavior. Martha had noticed too. It was a Tuesday afternoon when she came to report after finishing her cleaning. Ma'am, I've noticed things being moved from where I put them lately. Oh? Yes, they're in different places from where I leave them. It was the first time the meticulous Martha had mentioned something like this. Our neighbor Brenda also stopped me by the mailbox. Melissa, have you noticed any unfamiliar cars parked around lately? No, I haven't noticed. I see, maybe it's just my imagination. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The recent happenings in the house were clearly strange. Was Amy's noise really just imagination? If things were being moved, did that mean someone was moving them? But who has keys to this house? The more I thought about it, the more my anxiety grew. I tried to organize recent events in my mind. First was Amy's story about noises in her bedroom. Children sometimes imagine things to be bigger than they are. But my daughter's worried expression seemed beyond mere imagination. The subsequent series of events was concerning too. The family photo's orientation, the remote's position, the study drawer, the air conditioning settings. Each was minor, but having so many occur in succession was unnatural. Paul's missing mug particularly bothered me. It was his longtime favorite that he treasured. Despite searching everywhere, we couldn't find it. While other things just changed position, only the mug completely vanished. Martha's words also nagged at me. She's meticulous and hasn't misplaced anything in 2 years. For someone like her to report feeling something was off. The clock showed midnight. The house was silent except for Amy's breathing. Yet even in this quietness, I couldn't shake an inexplicable anxiety. Was this all in my head, or was someone really? Just thinking about it made me suddenly feel lonely in this big house. I should talk to Paul first thing tomorrow. Though part of me doesn't want to worry him. I let out a quiet sigh while staring at the ceiling. A week after that night, on a Saturday afternoon, while warm spring sunlight streamed into the living room, Amy was watching videos on her iPad as usual. I had just finished the weekend cleaning and was brewing coffee in the kitchen. "Mom, I hear that strange noise again." Amy's sudden cry made me freeze. As steam rose from the coffee maker, her voice carried the same anxiety as before. Since that night, the sense of something being off in the house had only grown stronger. This time, I needed to investigate properly. Where is it coming from? I headed toward the living room, trying to stay calm. Amy stood up from the sofa and pointed toward a large houseplant. "Around here." The houseplant in the corner of the living room. My favorite monstera that I'd been growing since we moved in. Its glossy large leaves beautifully reflected the afternoon light. I approached the plant and carefully began moving the leaves. I could feel my hands trembling slightly. As I checked each leaf, there it was, a small black device I'd never seen before. This couldn't be. I felt the blood drain from my face. A shape I'd only seen on TV and in movies. But there was no mistake. This was a listening device. Someone had been recording our family's conversations. "Mom? What's wrong?" Amy's voice snapped me back. "I can't frighten my daughter." I tried desperately to maintain my composure. "Nothing, sweetie. I just need to make a quick call to Daddy." I took out my smartphone with trembling fingers and dialed Paul's number. On Saturday afternoon, he should be at the nearby tennis court. "Paul, come home right now." "What's wrong?" Worry seeped into my husband's voice. "I'll explain later. Just hurry." "All right, I'm coming." After hanging up, I stared at the listening device again. Just a few centimeters in size. But what this discovery meant was serious. Someone had broken into our home and planted this device. That someone was eavesdropping on our daily life. 30 minutes later, Paul returned home covered in sweat. We spoke in hushed voices in the kitchen to keep our daughter from realizing what we'd found. "We should call the police." Paul's voice was serious. "But this involves our home." I hesitated. Would involving the police make things more complicated? "I see. Who has keys?" At my husband's question, I thought carefully. "Us, Martha, and Caroline." Listing the names felt like my chest was being squeezed. Having to list trusted people as suspicious subjects. "What about neighbors?" "No, but they've been watching lately. The number of people with keys to this house is limited. But they're all people we should be able to trust." Could one of them really? From the living room, we could still hear Amy watching videos on her iPad. A normal Saturday afternoon. But at this moment, great anxiety was spreading through our hearts. Outside the window, the spring sunlight continued to shine brightly. But inside this house, it felt as though we were suddenly wrapped in dark shadows. As day turned to dusk, shadows crept into the living room. We sat facing each other at the kitchen table, staring at the small device before us. This tiny object was threatening our daily life. The thought sent chills down my spine. Are we sure it's really a listening device? Paul muttered quietly. True, we'd never seen anything like this before. We'd only seen such things on TV. But what else could it be? The sounds Amy heard, the strange feelings around the house, and now this device. It all connected. We should have the police look at it. But who? The words trailed off. We looked at each other. Only a limited number of people have free access to this house. All of them are important to us. Do we have to suspect one of them? From the living room, we could still hear Amy watching her videos. Her innocent voice seemed out of place in this heavy atmosphere. We shouldn't tell Amy anything. Paul nodded deeply at my words. Neither of us wanted to frighten our daughter. The clock showed 5 p.m. Normally, it would be time to start preparing dinner. But now, such daily routines felt distant. How should we face this reality? For now, I'll search the whole house tonight. Paul spoke with determination. His voice carried a strong will to protect his family. Tomorrow, we'll consult an expert. Right now, it's important to act normal. I nodded at those words. What we can do now is calmly assess the situation. Maybe that's the best way to protect our family. Through the kitchen window, I could see the dusk sky. Until this morning, I never imagined we'd be in this situation. How will our lives change from here on? Amy's voice called from the living room. Mom, I'm hungry. Her usual sweet voice brought me back to reality. That's right, we need to act normal now. I'll start cooking now, Amy. You can watch TV with Daddy. As I stood up, Paul and I exchanged silent glances. We must get to the bottom of this. It was an unavoidable choice to restore our family's peace. After Amy went to bed, we gathered in Paul's study. Wall-to-wall bookshelves, a large wooden desk, subdued lighting. This room, usually my husband's workspace, had become our strategy room for the night. To catch the culprit. Looking at the listening device on the desk, I searched for words. Hours after the discovery, the initial shock had subsided, but my mind was still in chaos. We need to set a trap. Paul's voice was quiet but filled with determination. His profile as he sat at the desk showed strong resolve beneath his usual gentleness. But who? My voice trembled. In this situation, we had to suspect people close to us. That fact squeezed my chest. Let's spread the same information to everyone and watch their reactions. I slowly nodded at my husband's suggestion. Indeed, that might be the most reliable method. But what information? How about Disneyland? Amy would love that. Yes, a natural setting of a family trip wouldn't seem suspicious. The plan gradually took shape. First, we'd leave Amy with my mother. We couldn't involve our daughter in any danger. Then, explain the situation to neighbors and ask for cooperation. And notify the police in advance. From the next day, I began spreading information by phone. Yes, we're going to Disneyland as a family next weekend. Calling Martha. While maintaining my usual tone, my heart was racing. We'll be away from Saturday morning through Sunday. Messaging Caroline. While trying to gauge my sister's reaction, I struggled to keep my voice from shaking. Amy's so excited about meeting Minnie. Chatting with Brenda. I concentrated all my energy on maintaining a smile to keep anxiety from showing on my face. 1 week of preparation. During that time, we proceeded with careful attention to detail. We explained to Amy that she'd be staying at Grandma's house, which she happily accepted. We explained the situation to the police in detail, and they agreed to stand by on Saturday night. We also set up surveillance. New security cameras were installed in the house, and recording devices were prepared. Emergency contact networks were confirmed. As all preparations fell into place, my anxiety and tension grew. Are we really doing the right thing? Friday night, I confided my anxiety to my husband. It'll be all right. Paul gently held my hand. The police are standing by, and we have the neighbors' cooperation. Besides, this is necessary to protect our family. Those words gave me a bit of courage. Indeed, our family's peaceful life won't return without this. To be free from this anxiety, we need to know the truth. Saturday morning. After sending Amy to my mother's house, we had our final meeting. By nightfall, someone might sneak into this house. Then, we would know the truth. It might mean learning about the betrayal of someone we trusted. We were already prepared for that possibility. We waited silently in the darkening house. From outside, we could hear the smell of barbecue and children's voices from neighboring houses. Only our house remained eerily silent, as if left behind. We managed to make it look like we left in the morning as planned. Early in the morning, we had loaded large travel bags into the car and departed while neighbors were watching. Then we snuck back through the back door, and since then, we couldn't approach windows or turn on lights. We'll wait until deep into the night. Paul whispered from a corner of the living room. We chose positions where we couldn't be seen from outside but had a good view of the house's interior. Police patrols every 30 minutes. We can call them immediately if anything happens. The clock showed 6 p.m. As the sun began to set, twilight crept into the house. Leaving only minimal lighting, we continued waiting in the darkness. "Are you hungry?" my husband whispered. "I'm fine, I prepared sandwiches." Even eating had to be done carefully to avoid making noise. When thirsty, we sipped water slowly to prevent any sound. This kind of tense waiting was a first-time experience. By tomorrow morning, everything should be clear. I silently nodded at Paul's words. This was an unavoidable choice to restore our family's peace. As dusk deepened, we held our breath and waited in the darkness. Through the kitchen window, we could see the orange-tinted sky. As if reflecting our tension, its color gradually deepened. As night grew darker, the clock showed 9 p.m. The house was wrapped in silence as Paul and I held our breath in the darkness. That's when we heard the sound of the front door key turning. My heart leaped at the sound. Someone who knew the digital lock code. That undoubtedly meant someone close to us. Footsteps approached. 2 sets of footsteps. I remained hidden in the darkness, straining my ears to listen. As shadows appeared in the living room, I reached for the switch. The moment the lights came on. Standing before us was Martha. And the voice I heard from behind her made me freeze. Caroline. Seeing my sister's figure, my mind went blank. How could it be her? Faced with this unbelievable sight, words failed me. Why? I finally managed to squeeze out the words. Caroline kept her head down and began speaking in a trembling voice. I wanted to hear Paul's voice, every day, since your wedding day. I've always. Paul, but you were chosen. Caroline's voice was hoarse, tears streaming down her cheeks. My sister fell to her knees and continued speaking in a shaky voice. I fell in love with Paul the first time I met him. But because he was my sister's boyfriend, I tried so hard to suppress my feelings. I knew it was your happiness. But that day, during the wedding preparation meeting, when I was alone with Paul, Caroline's words caught in her throat. Paul smiled kindly and said, "Caroline is like a sister to me." My sister continued painfully. Those words became twisted inside me. I'm not just a sister. I loved Paul more than anyone. But still, why? Did you notice, sister, that I only make $40,000 a year? Paul makes $150,000. You make $120,000. Only I, so much less. Caroline's voice rose in anguish. The weekend visits. They were because I wanted to see Paul. Taking family photos was because I wanted Paul's smile. Every time I posted on social media, I wanted everyone to think we were a happy family. But that wasn't enough. Yes. I wanted to hear Paul's voice, conversations on days off, work talk, conversations with Amy. I wanted it all. Then Martha spoke up. I had difficult circumstances too, she began in her British accent. My mother's surgery costs back home. $30 per hour wasn't nearly enough. Miss Caroline offered me $1,000 per month at first. Then it became $2,000. I should have refused, but I forced her, Caroline interrupted. I took advantage of Martha's situation. Paid her to help install the listening devices. That's not all, is it? I said quietly. Paul's mug too. Yes. My sister raised her face. The mug, his ties, used memo papers, they're all in my room, as my private treasures. To go that far. I was going mad. Putting on a smile next to you, saying what a lovely family. But really, I wanted so desperately to be part of this family. As the police officers approached, Caroline made her final confession. The hardest part was hearing Paul say, "I love you every day, but always to you, never to me, not even once." But that's. I know. It's crazy. But I couldn't stop. Smiling next to you while feeling torn apart inside. Suddenly, sirens wailed. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Don't move. As officers entered the room, Caroline collapsed on the spot. Paul. I'm sorry. Sister. I'm so sorry. Martha silently held out her hands, wearing a resigned expression. At that moment, Paul appeared at the top of the stairs. Caroline continued speaking through her sobs. On your wedding day, what Paul said to me. Caroline, you'll find someone wonderful too, but I clung to those words, and now this. I approached my sister and placed a hand on her shoulder. I couldn't hate her. I had completely failed to notice how much my sister was suffering. Caroline, if you had just talked to me earlier, not like this. I couldn't, destroying your happiness with my selfish feelings, but in the end, this is how. As officers moved to take them away, various emotions swirled in my chest. Anger, sadness, sympathy, and regret. Changing the family photo's orientation, moving the remote's position, it was all Caroline. Were these expressions of her love? Or manifestations of jealousy? Martha bowed deeply one last time. I'm truly sorry. I too, in my difficult circumstances, was blinded by money. The sound of police car doors closing. The sound of sirens fading away. With those sounds, our daily life changed dramatically. Perhaps we'll never return to those peaceful family times. But this is reality. And this is the truth. The reality we must accept lay before our eyes. 3 months have passed since then. Caroline is receiving counseling from a psychiatrist. My heart still wavers between wanting my sister's recovery and being unable to forgive her betrayal of our family. We settled with Martha out of court and hired a new housekeeper. But this incident taught our family important lessons. When Amy said she heard strange noises, we should have noticed sooner. We learned the importance of not dismissing children's intuition and listening carefully to them. We've upgraded to the latest security system and increased family time together. We always go for picnics on weekends and have family conversations after dinner. We want to nurture genuine family bonds, not just superficial daily routines. We also value our neighborly relationships more than before, never forgetting the gratitude toward neighbors who helped us in times of crisis. Above all, we want to be more sensitive to the unspoken voices within our family. My name is Rachel Parker. I work as a pediatric nurse at Advent Health Hospital in the suburbs of Orlando, Florida. I've been working at this hospital ever since I graduated from nursing school, going on 15 years now. Good morning, Nurse Rachel. When I enter the patients' rooms during my morning rounds, the children always greet me with bright smiles. Some wave their tiny hands when they spot my light brown hair. Being called Angel Nurse by the children helps ease my fatigue after the night shift. I work on a shift schedule. While alternating between day and night shifts can be challenging, after 15 years, my body has gotten used to it. Besides, I truly believe this is my calling. Seeing the children's smiles confirms that for me. Rachel, could you help train the new staff member again today? Such requests from the head nurse have become part of my daily routine. As an experienced nurse, training newcomers is an important part of my role. Watching their anxious expressions transform into confidence is one of the great joys of this job. After work, I head home to the Winter Park district in suburban Orlando. My house is a 2-story single-family home surrounded by white picket fences in a quiet residential area. The 3 bedrooms might be a bit too spacious, but the time I spend in this house is my sanctuary. The rose garden in my yard holds a special place in my heart. Every holiday morning begins with tending to the roses. The sight of red, pink, and yellow blooms in full glory has become quite famous in the neighborhood. Sitting in the white rocking chair on my porch and enjoying the fragrance of the flowers is my moment of pure bliss. Brightening up my life is my beloved dog, Max, a 7-year-old golden retriever. Our morning and evening walks are an essential part of our daily routine, and he's quite popular with the neighborhood children. When Max spots children playing in the park and runs over to them with his tail wagging, I can't help but smile too. Rachel, are you ready for Sunday school? Another important part of my life is serving at St. Michael's Church during holidays. As a Sunday school teacher, I have the role of sharing Bible teachings with children. During Bible study sessions for kids, I strive to provide clear explanations as their leader. This year, I'm also serving on the Christmas pageant committee, and while the preparations keep me busy every day, it's something I truly enjoy. Looking forward to tomorrow's gardening club. Such greetings from my neighbor Mrs. Jones have become part of my daily life. At our monthly gardening club meetings, we exchange gardening knowledge with other members. Many people want to learn about my rose growing techniques, and I'm often asked for advice about horticultural therapy at local parenting groups. Your advice from the other day was really helpful. Hearing such words from mothers with young children makes me realize that my nursing experience is benefiting the community. Using my medical knowledge to address parenting concerns has become another important role for me. At the hospital, I'm known as a reliable senior nurse, and in the community as a dependable advisor. My days are filled with genuine fulfillment. The gratitude from patients and their families, trust from colleagues, and warm interactions with community members all enrich my life. After walking Max, it's my habit to sit in the porch rocking chair and watch the peaceful sunset. The roses swaying in the breeze, neighborhood children waving from beyond the fence, Max sleeping on my lap. I believed this tranquil daily life would continue forever. But that morning was different. I couldn't have imagined that my usual route home would dramatically change my life. January 7, 2025, 8 a.m. It seemed like any other winter morning. As I left the hospital, my colleague Sarah called out, "Get home safely." After completing a 12-hour night shift, all I could think about was getting home to rest. Night shifts in pediatrics are particularly demanding. Children's conditions can change rapidly, so we can't take our eyes off them for a moment. Tonight, we had been busy from 2 a.m. until dawn dealing with a 3-year-old's asthma attack. While Florida winters are relatively mild, this day felt chilly. As I started my car in the hospital parking lot, the dashboard thermometer showed 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Usually, I wouldn't bother checking the heater settings, but this morning I turned it up a bit. My body, which had been moving around the hospital for hours, was suddenly feeling the cold. Gripping the steering wheel of my Honda CR-V, I could feel my fatigue as I drove along my usual commute route. When the traffic light turned red at an intersection, I couldn't help but yawn. But home was close now. After taking Max for his morning walk, I could finally rest. That thought brought me some comfort. The morning news was playing on the car radio. The forecast predicted calm weather today, with temperatures rising over the weekend. I was planning to talk about my newly planted miniature roses at Saturday's gardening club meeting. As I entered the Winter Park district, the familiar quiet residential landscape spread before me. The maple lined street, the white church spire gleaming in the morning sun, the newspaper delivery boy on his bicycle, these daily sights usually helped calm my mind. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafted from the bakery on my right. Normally, I might stop for a muffin, but this morning I was too tired and drove past. Just 5 more minutes until home. That's when I noticed something was wrong. 2 police cars were parked in front of my house. The black and white Ford Interceptors seemed unnaturally bright in the morning sun. 4 uniformed officers were present, and several neighbors had gathered around them. The same neighbors I usually exchanged greetings with were now staring at my house with an unusually unsettled expression. What's going on? Trying to suppress my anxiety, I pulled over to the curb. I could see Mrs. Jones approaching from behind. Her usually warm smile was replaced with an unusually serious expression. Just yesterday, we had been enthusiastically discussing gardening, but now she seemed like a different person. As I got out of my car, a police officer approached. He was a tall man in his 40s. His badge glinted in the morning sun. "Are you Rachel Parker?" "Yes, I am." "Is something wrong?" I could feel my voice trembling. The officer's expression turned stern. I thought I saw a hint of sympathy in his eyes. "You're under arrest for suspected murder." Those words didn't feel real. I heard a ringing in my ears, and my vision blurred slightly. "Murder? What do you mean?" As I stood there confused, another officer approached. This one was a female officer with neatly arranged black hair and a serious expression. "The victim is your husband, Thomas Parker." "Husband?" The body of Thomas Parker, who went missing 3 years ago, has been discovered." Words caught in my throat. My mind went blank, and the surrounding sounds seemed to fade away. Through this haze, I felt the cold touch of metal on my wrists. It was the moment the handcuffs were being placed. The small clicking sound seemed to announce this surreal reality. There must be some mistake. As I started to say this, I heard Max barking from inside the house. It wasn't his usual cheerful bark. It was a sad, anxious sound, as if he understood the situation I was in. "Max." The neighbor's stares felt piercing. Mrs. Jones covered her mouth with her hand, wearing an expression of disbelief. The Smith children were hiding behind their mother, staring at me. The gazes of people I had exchanged smiles with just yesterday now felt heavy. As I was being put into the police car, the sky seemed unusually blue. Through the back seat window, the familiar streetscape gradually receded. School children on their way to class turned to look, their expressions shocked. Some were children I often waved to. But now, I couldn't even wave. The uniformed elementary school students stood still, watching the police car I was in. The police siren echoed through the morning streets. The sound seemed to signal the collapse of my peaceful daily life. With each turn at an intersection, familiar scenes flowed past one by one. The church spire, the supermarket, the park, places that had shaped my daily life now seemed to belong to a different world. Upon arriving at the Orlando police station, reporters had already gathered in front. Led by officers through the flashing cameras, I entered the building. Walking down the air-conditioned hallways, I was finally trying to understand the situation. The fluorescent light's sterile glow made everything feel even less real. "I'd like to request a lawyer." I finally managed to say this just before entering the interrogation room. The female officer gave a small nod. I thought I saw a hint of sympathy in her expression. That's your right. The door opened, revealing a small interrogation room. 2 chairs at a table. A large mirror on the wall. Presumably being watched from the other side. I could see a camera installed in the corner of the room. I had no idea what was about to unfold. The heavy sound of the interrogation room door closing squeezed my heart. Under the fluorescent lights, the metal table and chairs gleamed coldly. The wall clock showed 9:15 a.m. Just over an hour since finishing my night shift. In that time, my life had transformed into something like a nightmare. Mrs. Parker. The detective sat across from me. He appeared to be in his late 40s, with tired eyes. On the desk were a brown envelope and a laptop. The female officer from earlier stood beside him. In the silence broken only by the sound of the air conditioning, the interrogation began. On January 15, 2022, 3 years ago, your husband Thomas Parker went missing. The detective's voice echoed in the quiet room. Memories of that day slowly came back. That morning, when I went to make Thomas's coffee as usual, the moment I realized he wasn't there. Yesterday, a body was discovered in the wetlands outside Orlando. DNA testing has confirmed it to be Thomas Parker. My hands were shaking. Though the handcuffs had been removed, I could still feel their phantom presence on my wrists. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy. Based on the condition of the body, we estimate he was killed shortly after his disappearance. The detective pulled photographs from the brown envelope. While I wasn't shown photos of the body, pictures of the discovery site were laid out on the table. The wetland mud. The area cordoned off with yellow tape. The investigators. None of it felt real. Your hair was found on the body. Those words took my breath away. That's natural, we were married. My voice sounded uncertain even to my own ears. The detective, maintaining his expressionless face, produced another photo. 2 weeks before the disappearance, you and your husband modified your life insurance policy. The coverage was increased from $500,000 to $3 million. Next, a copy of the insurance policy was shown. My signature was indeed there. But the circumstances at that time were different. Thomas had suddenly proposed reviewing the insurance. That was because my husband suddenly. Are you exercising your right to remain silent? The female officer cut in coldly. I swallowed my words. How could I explain? That day, Thomas had seemed strangely anxious. He brought the insurance documents, insisting I sign them immediately. 3 days before the disappearance, you withdrew $100,000 from your bank account. An ATM security camera image appeared. It clearly showed me. But there was an explanation for this too. Thomas had suddenly said he needed cash. That was because my husband told me. The words wouldn't come. My memories were becoming hazy. Why hadn't I questioned it at the time? The events from 3 years ago felt distant, like they were hidden behind a fog. The Johnson couple from next door have testified. They heard a heated argument between you and your husband the night before his disappearance. Fragments of memory from that time came back. Yes, there had been an argument. But it wasn't started by me, Thomas had suddenly become angry. Trying to remember made my head hurt. Through the window, I could see the police station courtyard. Several patrol cars were parked there. Officers walking back and forth. Scenes I would normally pass by without notice now seemed unnaturally vivid. And gradually, I was beginning to understand the gravity of my situation. The interrogation continued until noon. During that time, the same questions were repeated over and over. With each answer, my words felt more uncertain. It was as if there were large gaps between my memories. Thomas's behavior in those last few weeks now seemed strangely unnatural. This concludes today's interrogation. When I was finally released, my cell phone was filled with countless missed calls and messages. Most were from unknown numbers. New notifications kept arriving each time I opened the screen. When I left the police station, a crowd of reporters was waiting. Camera flashes, microphones thrust toward me. Reporters' questions flew at me like shouts. Their voices surrounded me like a swarm of bees. "Mrs. Parker, what was your motive for killing your husband? Was the $3 million insurance money your goal? Is there a possibility you harmed hospital patients? Are the children in pediatrics safe?" Each question stung my heart like a needle. My lawyer guided me to a police car, but the questions continued. From the car radio, local news was playing. "A shocking case has come to light this morning. A trusted local nurse has been arrested for the murder of her husband who went missing 3 years ago. The victim's body." Opening the messages on my cell phone, I was hit with a storm of online abuse. "Murderer nurse, devil in angel's disguise, hypocrite who endangered children." My familiar photo was being shared from account to account. It felt like my life was being torn apart online in an instant. And then, the email from the hospital. Its contents were as I had feared. "You are hereby placed on administrative leave until further notice." That single line felt like a denial of my 15-year career. Messages from colleagues kept coming in. Most expressed disbelief. But some had a cold, distant tone. Years of trust seemed to be crumbling with an audible sound. "I don't want her near my child." Such messages from patients' families too. It felt like everyone who had trusted me was suddenly distancing themselves. Everything I had built up as a nurse was collapsing like a castle made of sand. When I returned home, the neighborhood was already in chaos with media presence. A local TV station's van was parked in front of Mrs. Jones's house. There were no children playing in the yards, and an ominous atmosphere hung over the street. The people I had exchanged greetings with just yesterday were nowhere to be seen. Max looked at me anxiously. Even our usual walks wouldn't be normal anymore. Even the rose garden looked different from this morning. It felt like my peaceful daily life was crumbling away like a lie. Outside the window, camera flashes continued to light up. And in my mind, Thomas's puzzling behavior in those last few weeks was slowly beginning to take shape, like pieces of a puzzle. The truth came to light 2 weeks after my arrest. The reality was more shocking than imagined. The incident traced back to 3 years ago. Thomas had fallen into an affair with Ashley Bennett, whom he met at the upscale bar, Blue Moon. He had promised her, a young and attractive bartender, a dream future. A luxury apartment, brand items, an extravagant lifestyle. However, behind this lay massive gambling debts. His casino losses were mounting daily, and the pressure from loan sharks was intensifying. Cornered, Thomas conceived a plan for insurance fraud. Thomas's plan was meticulously detailed, my lawyer said, spreading out piles of documents. First, he took advantage of you being the life insurance beneficiary. He had the coverage increased from $500,000 to $3 million. Documents bearing my signature were shown one after another. Bank withdrawal records. Insurance policy changes. All had been part of Thomas's careful planning. He manipulated you skillfully. The insurance review, the bank withdrawals, all under the pretext of future investments. Then came his elopement with Ashley. He planned to fake his disappearance, have the insurance claimed, and start a new life with that money. However, the following 3 years were an unimaginable hell for Ashley. Thomas's true nature emerged soon after moving into the South Beach apartment. The documents contained Ashley's detailed testimony. It started with subtle control. Restrictions on going out, forbidden friendships, phone monitoring. Then gradually, the violence began. I became terrified of even the slightest sound, Ashley's testimony continued. Just hearing a door open would make me tremble. His mood would determine whether I'd face violence that day. He threatened to find and kill me if I tried to escape. I heard this almost daily. The debts kept growing. Thomas, trying to strike it rich through gambling, became increasingly desperate. The pressure from loan sharks intensified, and all that stress was directed at Ashley. Everything fell apart a week ago. Thomas had begun planning another insurance fraud scheme. This time, he was targeting Ashley's life. He had planned to take out a life insurance policy on her and stage her death as an accident. The frame-up against me was part of that plan. However, that night, the violence started again. The assault was more severe than usual. Ashley sensed that she would be killed. With the knife I had hidden for self-defense, it happened in an instant. In a panic, Ashley made the worst choice. Then she came up with the idea of pinning the crime on me. She disposed of Thomas's body near my house, creating a perfect cover-up. My lawyer showed new documents. The cover-up was remarkably thorough. It began with manipulating public opinion on social media. She created multiple anonymous accounts and gradually tarnished my reputation. The strange behavior of a nurse who lost her husband, abnormal attachment to children, baseless rumors were systematically spread. Next came the fabrication of physical evidence. She collected hair from my hairbrush stolen from my home and planted it on the body. She edited images cut from photos of Thomas and me from 3 years ago, creating and spreading pictures online that suggested suspicious relationships. She tried to create the perfect scapegoat. A reputable nurse. The wife of a missing husband. The insurance beneficiary. For Ashley, you were the ideal person to frame. However, this seemingly perfect plan had critical flaws. First, the wounds on the body were too fresh. Forensic analysis determined the time of death was just a week ago. Then there were contradictions in Ashley's testimony. Security cameras clearly showed Thomas and Ashley together on the day of the incident. Loan sharks provided testimony about recent transactions. And most decisively, the DNA testing of the body. Skin fragments from Ashley were found in scratch marks from the struggle. All evidence pointed to the truth. Mrs. Parker, your innocence has been proven. At those words, tears I had held back for so long finally flowed. The next day's newspapers carried bold headlines. Murderer nurse wrongly accused, real killer arrested. Tragedy born from 3 years of captivity. From insurance fraud to twisted frame-up. Ashley Bennett turned herself in and confessed to everything. She faces trial, but the possibility of self-defense due to domestic violence is being considered. 1 month later, on the day I was cleared to return to the hospital, the children in pediatrics welcomed me back. Welcome back, angel nurse. Holding a bouquet of roses, I responded, I'm home. Outside the window, Max was waiting, wagging his tail. The sunset sky seemed to herald the beginning of a new life. Truth can sometimes be cruel. But I believe that having the courage to accept and overcome it opens new paths. A year has passed since then. This morning too, I head out for our daily walk with Max. The dew-covered lawn gleams in the morning sun. The church bells ring 7 o'clock, echoing peacefully through the air. Good morning, Rachel. Mrs. Jones waves while watering her garden flowers. Her roses are blooming beautifully again this year. Throughout this past year, her gardening advice has helped me countless times. After the incident, my roses had withered completely. But with the help of my neighbors, I was able to plant new seedlings. Now white and pink roses bloom more beautifully than ever before. Rachel. As usual, children surround Max at the park. After the incident, I was afraid to interact with children for a while. But their innocent smiles helped heal my heart. Work at the hospital has also returned to normal. The children in pediatrics still call me Angel Nurse. With new junior staff members joining, I'm experiencing the joy of mentoring again. I continue teaching Sunday school as well. Sharing courage and hope through Bible teachings to overcome difficulties, these words now carry special weight. Ashley's trial has already concluded. She received a suspended sentence after self-defense was recognized. I hear she now works with an organization supporting domestic violence victims. I occasionally receive letters from her. I am truly sorry for trying to frame you for the crime. That's what her first letter said. I wrote back. You were a victim too. Let's both look forward and live our lives. Life sometimes presents us with unexpected trials. But I believe we become stronger by overcoming these challenges. Sitting in the white rocking chair on the porch, drinking my morning coffee, I look up at the sky. Max sleeps contentedly at my feet. The fragrance of roses drifts on the morning breeze. A new day is about to begin.